Welcome to the Get Sacred podcast. I'm your host, intuitive life coach Melissa Elysian, and I'm here to teach you how to create more money, more love, and more sacred success. If your inner goddess is ready to create a lusciously abundant and pleasure-filled life, you're in the right place. Hey, love. I want to talk to you this week about creating a new normal. We are globally in a situation where we're all waiting for normal to return. We're waiting for things to go back to the way that they used to be. And I, as a person who studies transformation and personal development and am pretty dedicated to my spiritual practice and observing my life as a part of that practice, observing life, period, as a part of that practice, am in a place where I'm clear that normal is not something that you go back to, right? There's a version of how life was before C-19. There was a version of life before we couldn't go out to work per se unless you were an essential worker, or version of our lives where our businesses were running in a certain way, or a version of our life where our relationships were functioning in a certain way that is now in the past. And the notion and idea that we'll be returning to those versions is not, from my experience, from my study, from my love of observing life, is not a real thing. It's just not a real thing. See, what happens when you're in the midst of transformation, which is what's happening, right? Change is transformation in a lot of ways. This transformation that we're experiencing is going to take our old normal and make it different. And I think that's unsettling, probably for most people, in the fact that there are some things that we're having to let go of, some ways of being, some ways of thinking, some ways of doing that we've had to put down or let go of or kind of shed because of the circumstance, that we don't even have awareness that they won't be entering into the future with us. They won't be entering into our new normal. And the more I've given thought to that this week, is the more I've realized that there have been lots of times in my life where I've been in a situation where normal just got snatched, right? Life took normal away from me, quote unquote normal away from me, and left me in a place where I was kind of in an in-between, where I didn't know what next looked like, what my new normal was going to be like. And those times in between were, oh my God, so frustrating and so infuriating and so anxiety provoking for me in the past. Because I want to know what's happening next. I want to, actually, just being in the middle, I want to do everything I can to create the new version as soon as possible. And, being a human being, my compulsion is to whatever I'm creating, as much as possible, I want to create what I already have. I'm a creature of habit like most. Those are the things that are comforting to me. So I want to recreate what was in the past as soon as possible in the interim so that I have my new normal and it feels like the past. But it's not real, like I said. It's not a real thing to think that we're going to leave one version of life and have this such a serious and pretty powerful shift take place for everyone on the planet and think that we're just going to go back to life like it was before. If you give some time and attention to that, if you look a little bit into what has changed for you, what has changed in your relationships, what has changed in your business, what has changed in your career, what has changed in your family function or at home, etc., whatever. If you take the time to look at those things, and if you're willing to just kind of take a deep breath and take it in, that whatever ways it was in the past, it's likely not to ever be exactly the same again. You get to create something wonderful, and you get to relax. You get to not worry so much. So this came up in a conversation in one of my coaching sessions this week, which was beautiful because I was thinking about it on such a big, like, global scale for, everyone on the planet. But then to see it in the scope of just like one area of one person's life was really, really helpful and beautiful for me. I thought it was wonderful. But it was just about acknowledging that, the versions of ourselves when we change, when we transform, when we're put in situations like this, the versions of ourselves that we leave behind, we think we want to go back to them, but in reality, we're so much smarter, so much wiser, so much more open, so much deeper. Afterlife forces us into an experience like this than we were before. And so we get to look forward to the version of ourselves that is going to emerge. And we can do that with like an excitement. We can do that with a joy. We can do that with a wonder and curiosity instead of fear. And we can do that in every aspect of our lives, not just about in our personalities, but we can think, my relationship, for example, you can think my relationship is being tested by this circumstance. We're having to be more vulnerable. We're having to keep it real. We're having to spend more time together. We're having to find ways to enjoy each other in new ways. And a product of that being the case means we get to have something deeper. Or in the area of work, you might be thinking of, especially if you have a business, for a lot of people who have businesses right now, this circumstance is causing the need to pivot, to really focus in on what your clients need and how you can give it to them, how you can stay, useful is not the word that I'm wanting to say, but how you continue to serve at the highest level in a circumstance where, people's needs have shifted. And so it's required people to be flexible and creative and to get in touch with their clients and really understand their needs at this time. And yes, it can be difficult in real time as it's happening, but what it creates for you in the future is this deeper relationship with the people you serve, right? And a deeper understanding at a very core level of what you have to offer. And being able to pull in and dig into yourself and find out what that really is in a time where people have different needs than maybe they did before. So if your business model doesn't work for what's going on right now, you've had to flex a muscle. You've had to pivot. You've had to get creative. And that skill, having to do it and now having the skill to do that in the future, makes you better at everything that you do. Having those conversations, meeting those needs, supporting people at a higher level, that will always serve you in the future version of your business. So I'm offering this because I just want you to know that, one, there's a transformation happening. There is a transformation happening. And if we move to the idea that we get to have something better than we had because this circumstance is going to require us to have growth on some level, then you get to be positive about the outcome. You get to have a positive feeling about that outcome. You can be excited about it and hopeful for it. You can be in this in-between place where we are right now, where we're just kind of waiting to see what gets birthed. You can do it without being in a place of just anxiety. You can do it with a little bit of wonder and a little bit of awe of how life will do this to us. Well, life will ask a little bit more of you. It will ask you to stretch. It will ask you to flex. It will ask you to be creative. It will ask you to dive in deeper. And that's what it's doing right now. And on the other side of you doing that work, on the other side of being pressed by this circumstance, you get to be all of the best parts of you, all of the best versions of you from the past, plus everything you've gained from the circumstance. And I want to offer that to you as an alternative to just being worried, because I know there's so many people who are worried, so many worried people, so many people concerned about what's going to happen with the economy and what's going to happen with jobs. And I want to offer that something really incredible can come from the level of creativity, ingenuity, depth, connection, vulnerability, and high levels of service that is going to come out of this circumstance, right? People are connecting in new ways. It's so crazy and wonderful how we can't see each other like in person without being 6 feet apart, or not at all, depending on where you live. But all of a sudden, people are connecting in a new way. More people are online, and more people are connecting online in deeper ways than they were before, right? And more telephone calls are happening to family members now. People are staying in touch in a new way. People are relating in a new way. All of these things are powerful things that are actually good, right? And so let us continue to be hopeful for what this pressure is going to create, right? Let us be hopeful that if you're somebody who runs a business, that this time where you're needing to get created and find ways to serve at the highest level and to maintain your business creates for you flexibility and new sources of income and new connections that you didn't have. And let's just assume that the pressure that this puts on a family or a relationship to be together, to work well, to not make each other crazy means that you leave with the skill sets of knowing how to do that. If you think about it this way, this middle period where we don't know exactly what's going on and we don't know how everything's going to end up is going to feel so much better, right? If you can remind yourself that the end result can be everything, it can be all of the best of what we had in the past plus some upgrades. It can be that. There's a potential there. There's a possibility there. And if you move your mind and your attention in that direction, and you move your intention in that direction, what will you create? Something incredible. Likely something really incredible and magical. I know that that is true for me. I know that already. I know all of the ways that I can feel this circumstance pressing on me. That's how I like to phrase it. It's pressing on me, right? It's like kind of poking at me or pressing me in a way that I'm like, oh, okay, that's a little uncomfortable. And then I have to adjust, right? I have to adjust and figure out how to be comfortable and how to make it work and make it fit and let go of things that I don't need, that don't serve me, let go of things that used to bother me that it's not worth paying any attention to. It's pressing on me, and what the end result of that pressure is me really getting more clear about all sorts of things and making decisions from a place that is part necessity and part it's just, it has to happen. And if I don't do it, I'm just creating more pain for myself, right? So like in my business, I could feel this pressure of what's going on with the economy as a means by which to say like people wouldn't be able to invest in what I offer. But it's also like, that's ridiculous because this is the time where people really need support the most. So being able to see that and feel that, because I'm feeling that in all of the sessions that I have, right? Nothing has changed about human evolution. Nobody in this experience suddenly doesn't need support. Like, that's not what's happening. And so I'm watching myself just move from the initial, like everyone's panicking about the economy, to moving to a thought of like, wow, there's so many ways that people need help right now. There's so many ways for us to serve each other right now. The best thing that we can all do is participate in getting what we need and also offering what we have to support each other, right? So I'm thinking to myself, like, the businesses that are open, like even like my favorite restaurant, it's not just that they're open and, they're sustaining their business. It's also such a blessing to be able to get my favorite food in a time where things are kind of wonky and funny and freaky feeling, for me to be able to just have the thing that actually feels like comfort and feels familiar. It's a powerful thing, and it's just food. Food is powerful. It's food, and it's doing something on a lot of different levels for a lot of people right now. And so there's so many different ways in which we're all serving. We're all being called to show up in a new way. We're all being called to show up in our relationships differently, in our businesses, in our careers, in our friendships. We're all relating differently. It's all an elevation. It's all an opportunity for an elevation, for sure. We can take everything we learn, we can take everything that comes from this circumstance and use it to upgrade who we have been and what we've been doing. If you look at it that way, it'll be so much easier to stay positive, and it'll be so much easier to create something really, really special in this time. And I think we all should do that. I think we should gift ourselves the mindset and the intention of creating something beautiful by letting the pressure of the circumstance mold us into people who relate better, who are more creative, who serve our community better, who listen to ourselves better. I mean, there's so much room. There's so much room for the new normal to be an upgrade. And I wanted you to know that. I love you very, very much. Talk soon. Hey love, just one more thing. I want to invite you to my free money masterclass. It's called Holy Shift 3 Ways to Align with the Energy of Money. This is for my everyday high priestesses who want to create a sacred 6-figure or more income. You don't want to miss this magic. I've done it before. We have a freaking blast, and people's minds just are blown by how making simple shifts in the way that you're thinking and feeling and aligning with money can really change your future fantasy of cash flow. So to get in on this, I want you to go to melissaelysian.com/holy shift. I love you. I'll see you there.